Welcome to the Art of Listening to Your Body podcast. My name is Jin Ong and I'm your host. I practice as an osteopath and psychosomatic therapist and am fascinated by the mind-body connection and how your physical body is a manifestation of your emotional state. I help people get unstuck from their chronic pain and live the life they want, grounded in values and driven by purpose. My aim is to create awareness to the underlying emotions behind pain, injury, and disease in the body. Join me to learn more about the story of your body, what different issues may indicate, how to release emotions so that you can prevent problems, as well as inspiring pain story interviews. Ania Volovique is a self-proclaimed queen of personal reinvention. Her move across the world at the age of 10 led her on a lifelong search for a sense of belonging. In 2012, she started her own photography business with the intention to make others feel seen, heard, and connected. Her choices were driven by that innate desire to feel at home and be accepted. Through many years of personal development, reinvention, and looking within, she found what she was seeking. Only it came in the form of brain cancer. Through the brain cancer experience, Ania was able to see the lessons and blessings and truly trust they were leading to her greatest growth and expansion. By the power of collective prayer and mindset, and an amazing surgeon, Ania was able to heal her body without a need for chemo or radiation. As a result, she's challenged and surprised doctors and continues to inspire others as her story continues. Ania invites her audience to shift their mindset around worst-case scenarios and fully live without having to wait for a scary diagnosis or a near-death experience. Welcome to the podcast, Ania. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Great. So whereabouts are you today?
I'm in San Diego.
Awesome. So you're my first American, well, you're not American, but from the States.
Yay.
Where are you originally?
I was born in Russia and I grew up in New York.
Great. How old were you when you moved over?
So at first we left Russia when I was 10 and I lived in Cyprus for 4 years and I came to New York when I was 14.
Wow. What was the reason for the move?
My mom was following her boyfriend at the time and we just relocated for that.
Cool. So tell me a little bit about yourself now.
I am a photographer who specializes in branding photography for entrepreneurs. So I love supporting other entrepreneurs and really bringing them, all aspects of them, to highlight so that way they can attract their soulmate clients.
Cool. And you're on a bit of a journey at the moment and you had something quite major, something pivotal happen in your life last year. Shall we dive straight into that?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Tell the story. What happened?
So about a year, actually almost to the day, on Lionsgate, which is 8/8, and astrologically it's considered one of the most potent and strongest, most powerful days of the year, I had a seizure and I fell on my face. And when they brought me to the ER and took all of the scans and did the MRI, the doctors discovered a 5-centimeter brain tumor on the left side of my brain. Mm-hmm. And once they took all of the tests, they discovered that it was cancerous.
Yeah, right. What sort of cancer was it? Do you know?
The name of it was like gleamy something long. I don't remember. I choose not to remember it. That's how long it was.
Yeah. Did you have something else major happen just a couple of weeks beforehand?
About a month prior, I had a car accident where I was driving and I lost control over my entire body. And my car, instead of pressing the brake, I pressed gas. And my car went flying up the street into a concrete wall and then flipped upside down And it's just a miracle that I survived that. Not only did I survive it, I just had a tiny scratch from the seatbelt that held me in place.
Yeah, right. So was that related to the brain tumor cancer?
Supposedly, yes. It's still kind of unknown as to what was happening. I've been having these seizure symptoms for about a year prior. And that's really what happened during the car accident. It was just like a minor seizure. I wasn't classifying it as seizure. I just felt like energy was moving through my body, and I didn't think too much of it until, of course, the accident. And then a month later, that's when I had full seizure and fell on my face. And at that point, the doctors took extra tests that they didn't take when I arrived, with no scratches, with no bruises after the car accident. And that's when they discovered the brain tumor.
And you said that you were experiencing the seizures for about a year and it just felt like energy. Can you describe that a little bit more?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of inner work and a lot of spiritual work, including plant medicine. And I think somewhere along the way, the more that I went internally, the more my body started to express itself, for lack of a better word. And it didn't feel scary. It just felt like energy was moving through my body. And like, I still can't pinpoint exactly what it was. Like, obviously now in hindsight, I can see that it's probably related to the brain tumor, but I don't really know all of the answers. It just felt like energy was moving through my body, and it didn't feel scary.
Mm-hmm. So when you had the car accident, did you have any reflective moments about how lucky you were to just walk away with a scratch?
Yeah, definitely. It was, it felt like, and I don't know how your listeners, how woo-woo they are or not.
That's all right. Go into it. I need to open their minds.
Good. So after that, of course, it felt like it's not just an irregular car accident. There's so much more around that. I reached out to a friend of mine who's a healer, and we did a whole clearing, talking to my body and really connecting to my guides, angels. And the message that came through was that it was initiation. So that car accident was a wake-up call in order for me to wake up, to really see clearly, what is my life, and is this the life that I actually want to live? So it's like, it could have been in a different way, the sign itself, but sometimes if we don't listen to the little knocks, the universe smacks it around the head and wakes us up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we were just having a bit of a chat about before, is that I try and teach my clients to become more self-aware of the little signs. And it's not necessarily the signs in your internal body. It can be the things that happen to you as well. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you are forced to listen in a variety of different ways.
Yeah, definitely.
So do you think you had other signs before that?
Yeah, I had another minor car accident probably a few months before. And yeah, there were like different things, but they were small enough that I wasn't really paying attention to them. And the car accident was a kind of a big thing. Like now, when anybody looks at the photos of my car, it's literally a miracle that anybody survived that. Not only survived, but didn't have any injuries at all. So that was a wake-up call. But apparently that wasn't enough either, because a month later, I fell on my face, literally.
Yes. Sorry, I'm going to get to all the stuff that you've worked on in a minute, but I do find it really fascinating, your level of reflection on all these little signs and the accidents. So you said that it was an initiation. Where were you at that point in your life where you had these couple of car accidents? Like, how was business and personal life going for you?
I was like in the middle of nowhere. That's how I would describe it. Like, I was trying, I thought that I had goals and plans, but now looking back, I felt like I was like a leaf in the wind, trying to find my way and trying to go in the direction of the wind, but not necessarily being grounded in my body and clear as to what is it that I want to create in my life.
Mm-hmm. So are you still doing your photography work?
I am, yeah.
Cool. And so when you were working with the healer and trying to work out what it is you want to do with your life, what has come up for you?
Good question. I worked with several healers over the past year, and the work never ends. And photography is still a very much passion of mine. And now what I'm seeing is the purpose of all of these accidents, which actually I'm not looking or classifying them as accidents.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a deeper purpose in me having experienced all of those instances. And now what I'm looking at is how can I take that and combine it with what I've already been doing and support more people and share my message in such a way that it inspires different action in other people.
Yes, great. And I'm so pleased that you're sharing that with us today. So can you go back to when you were diagnosed with brain cancer? What happened? Take us through that course of events and what went through your mind.
Yeah, well, at first, the doctors were preparing me and my family for worst case scenario. So they said I might not be able to walk or talk again. I may need chemo and radiation. So really worst case scenario. And while everybody else around me was freaking out and preparing for all of these scenarios, my mindset was completely different. I kept on visualizing myself healthy and healed. And another thing that was really surprising and maybe even annoying to some people is the fact that I never said that I have cancer. Mm-hmm. I always kept on saying I'm having a cancer experience. So I never took on the identity of someone who has cancer. Mm-hmm. I was looking at it as a blessing, and I was looking at it as a gift that was given to me for a bigger purpose that I may not even realize at that moment.
Yeah. So should I talk about it now as your cancer
Please.
experience?
Yeah.
Okay,
mm-hmm.
Great. Thanks for letting me know. So how did you get to the point of having such a positive mindset? You've done a lot of work beforehand?
Yeah, I've been in personal development and really looking at myself and looking at my life in deep way for about a decade, I would say. And so that definitely had a big impact on that. And then I also feel like it felt like that was my path. And even when I was in the hospital, I kept on seeing that as my big purpose. Like every single thing up until that moment was preparing me for that experience. Mm-hmm. So I felt probably the happiest, and this is crazy to say out loud, I probably felt the happiest than I've ever been while I was in the hospital being diagnosed with brain cancer. Yeah. I felt like the luckiest person. Like it's wild to even say that now and to look back and to think of how I was thinking at that time.
Yes. And what emotions came over you, if you can remember?
I felt really grateful and I felt really loved. So for the majority of my life up until that point, I felt really isolated from humanity and I felt like I do not belong. Because I've moved so many times in my life, I've always felt like a stranger. In every single country, I felt like a foreigner. Even like with my accent, I have an accent in English. I also have an accent in Russian. So I felt like a complete foreigner in both of those countries, even though like I've been in America for almost 25 years now. So I think that really was an ingrained belief system of not belonging. And then I made up another belief that I'm not lovable. And then through the experience of being in the hospital, I saw so many people come to visit me and send me so many messages. Like complete strangers were coming into my hospital room and bringing me like gifts and water and food and offering their services. So I felt so loved and seen and understood that I've never experienced so much gratitude and love in my entire life up until that point.
Mm-hmm. So did you make a lot of new connections through that?
I have, yeah, absolutely. Actually, the place that I just moved to a new home, and this home, a new friend that I met through my hospital stay a year ago, I posted something in a Facebook group, in a local Facebook group, and she came and did my eyebrows while I was in the hospital because I couldn't, my arms weren't moving. And like we became friends and we stayed in touch. And like fast forward a year later, she was moving out from her place and she passed it on to me.
Great. It's always important to have good eyebrows in hospital.
Right, exactly. That was my priority. My priority was to have good eyebrows.
Yes. And actually, I've seen some pictures of you while you're in hospital, and you do still look very beautiful, even when you had the scratch on your face as well. I think you had a facial just beforehand, didn't you?
Yeah, that day, like that's how much of a sense of humor the universe, God has. That's like, oh, you want to look pretty? Okay, boop.
So you were diagnosed during this cancer experience, but then what happened? What was planned?
The plan was to start doing chemotherapy and radiation. And that was the plan. And I was ready for it. I started looking at all of the other options that are available. And I knew that if I go through chemo and radiation, I would lose my hair. So instead of waiting for that moment, I decided to shave my own head. Not only that, I decided to have a ceremony around it. So I had my closest friends come to the hospital room, and we had a whole beautiful ceremony of releasing everything that we're holding on to. Especially as women, we hold on to so much in our hair and our looks and perception. And I felt it was really powerful to do that shaving the head release ceremony and just releasing everything that no longer serves us, especially as women. So I was preparing for that. And a month after being in the hospital, I got discharged and I was able to walk out of the hospital room, being able to walk after they told me I may not be able to. And 2 weeks later, all my scans came back clear. So I no longer needed chemo or radiation.
Amazing. So why do you think it disappeared?
My mindset was definitely the big component to all of that, because the entire time from the moment that I was told that I have brain tumor to the moment I walked out of the hospital room, still thinking that I will need chemo and radiation, the entire time I kept on visualizing myself healthy, walking in the grass, watching the sunset, and I never took on the identity of a sick person.
Mm-hmm.
And I never took on the identity of a victim. I was really focusing on all of the things that are going really amazing in my life. And I kept on seeing myself on a stage, speaking in front of thousands of people and using that story, my story, that experience as a way to inspire and support other people. So I saw it as the gift and as the vehicle for me to reach more people.
Yes. Turning that pain into something positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So did you have brain surgery?
I have, yeah.
Okay. So what was the brain surgery for?
To remove the brain tumor.
Okay. And then they were going to do chemo on it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so after the brain surgery, is that when you weren't able to walk for a period of time?
Yeah. So right after the surgery, I didn't have any control over my right side and I couldn't walk. And they told me I may not be able to walk. Mm-hmm. 2 weeks after the surgery, I started walking again.
And do you feel like you've got all your sensation back now and you're just...
I would say 99%. My right arm still has a little bit of mobility left. And I kept on saying for a while that my right side is immobile, and I caught myself. And now I'm just saying that it's almost there.
Yeah.
So it's not 100%, but it's almost there.
It's getting there.
It's healing. Yes.
Great. So what was the doctor's response when you had your scans and they didn't see any trace of it?
Well, everybody was in complete shock, even from the moment that they told me that I have brain cancer, and I was just happy. And I had flowers and plants, and my friends were bringing me healthy food. I had crystals and essential oils, and my room looked like a wellness retreat versus a hospital room. So they were being shocked with my mindset from the very beginning. Then they were shocked that I was able to walk after such an intense surgery. And then they just kept on being in shock and not believing that I'm actually creating the result that I'm verbalizing, that this is what's happening.
Mm. Do you think that you've had an impact on those doctors to open
Yeah,
their mind?
absolutely. Even like the nurses, every single time they would walk into my hospital room, they their mindset shifted because of the way that I spoke about my experience. So
Mm.
they were being inspired by spending 5 minutes with me.
Oh, brilliant. That's so good. So you were doing a lot of healing and you were continuing your healing practices and having people come in and work on you while you were in hospital?
I had a few healers come into the hospital room while I was there, yes.
And what sort of healers were you working with?
I don't think there's like a specific type. I had Reiki practitioners, like energy healing. What else? Yeah, mostly energy healing while I was in the hospital. Once I got discharged, then I hired someone else to work with, like going even deeper. And that's when we really started the work that really was more somatic and dealing with like past trauma and unraveling everything that was unconscious.
Yes. Are you able to go into and share any of that past trauma that started to surface when you were doing that work?
Yeah, I don't think that there's like one specific thing that can be pinpointed and said this is what caused this issue to come up. There's so many different layers. In my personal experience, I feel like there's so many different layers of our trauma that's being built even on top of itself. And for me, it was a lot of trauma was in my childhood, and a lot of it I didn't even remember. That's how deep it was, and that's how subconscious it was. Like one instance was, I was so young, like I was about 2 years old, and I didn't even have, like, as an adult, I didn't even have that memory. That's how deep and subconscious it was. But it was so deep that in that moment, as a 2 year old, I made a decision that I can't trust anyone. What's interesting is that about 7 years ago, I got a tattoo on my wrist and it says trust. And of course, trust means so much. It's trusting myself, trusting the universe, trusting that everything always works out for my greatest good. But now, having uncovered so much of the trauma and the wound from my childhood, now it makes even more sense of how even subconsciously I got this word tattooed on my wrist.
Yes. Yeah. To bring it to your attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I often talk about memories and I ask people what their memories are of just a few years ago and particularly their childhood. And some people can remember from the age of 1, which really fascinates me, even 2 or 3 years old. And then other people can't remember anything before they were 10 or a particular incident that they remember, or a trauma. They don't remember anything prior to that. And it is often when we start to do that work and get into that safe place that these memories start to come up to be dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able
Yeah.
to go into what you remember at 2, why you might not have that trust in people?
Well, before this memory came up, I didn't have any memories up until the age of 10.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I even discovered this 2-year-old memory is by really going into self-hypnosis and going so deep that this memory just showed up. And the incident itself was that I felt like I was left and abandoned. Like now with an adult eyes, I can see a different instance of what happened. But basically as a 2-year-old, I felt abandoned by the people that I'm supposed to trust. And that just broke any trust that I had. And I made a decision, subconscious decision, that I can't trust anyone.
So do you feel like you do have trust in people now, or is this something, I think we're constantly working on everything, but where are you at with trust now?
I definitely trust people. It's easy for me to trust people, especially if the relationship is new. It feels much easier to trust someone if the relationship is new because there's none of that history. As far as people that I already have relationships with or even family members, I feel like it's still a work in progress. because there is so much of that history and there's so much of that wounding still there. So I believe that in order to create or reestablish trust, it has to first start with truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like truth and trust go hand in hand.
Yes. Are there any other, I'm sure there's lots of things that got uncovered, but what other interesting things have you uncovered throughout your healing process that you've worked through quite significantly that you can share with us?
Yeah, I've been noticing a lot of patterns of how my mind operates and how I automatically respond or react to certain situations. And it might sound kind of vague, because it really depends on each situation. But I think that, like, for your listeners, I think it's important to pay attention to how we respond and cross-reference it with, like, whether or not that feels healthy or not. And if it doesn't feel healthy, maybe be in inquiry as to where that came from. Because a lot of times what I found is that our reactions are learned most likely from our parents.
Yes.
So then the way that we do something and the way that we behave is a learned behavior. It's not our natural way of being.
Yes.
So it's really a path of coming back to what is your authentic self? What is your soul versus your learned behavior?
Yes. Tell me more. Keep going.
Now, every single time I'm in relationship with someone or having conversation or even working with clients, I'm always looking through the lens of, why am I doing it? And really checking in with myself whether or not that's in full alignment with how I want to present myself. And I think even deeper with that, it's really important and vital to know your values. Like, what do you stand for? Mm-hmm. Because, like, if you want to create healthy boundaries, it has to come with, like, what are your values? Once you know your values, then it's really easy to hold healthy boundaries.
Absolutely. What are your values?
My top priority is trust. So truth and trust, they go hand in hand. And I believe that truth is the ultimate form of love. So the saying of like making white lies or looking the other way or pretending something is not there, that's not a form of love. That's not a protection. I would rather know the actual truth.
Yes.
And that's the way that I can receive and give love.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm sure you're very sensitive to when someone isn't being honest with you.
Yeah. And anytime that feeling comes up, that I feel like it's not honesty, I also check in with myself. Where am I not being honest with myself? Because what I found is that a lot of times the triggers themselves are not even about other people. Yeah. Like, if I'm getting triggered by someone, I'm going to look within myself as to how am I not being in complete honesty with myself, or like, what am I doing that maybe is very similar behavior to whatever I'm getting triggered by.
Yes. So good. I will often tell my clients that as well, is if you get triggered, don't be so quick to blame the other person. And sometimes they are the message or the thing that hits you to make you look within yourself and reflect and ask yourself, why am I reacting this way? Which is everything you've just been talking about.
Yeah, and our triggers could be our biggest teachers.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Rather than getting really negative about them, is have that positive spin on what can I learn from this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anything else?
I think being in inquiry, that's been the biggest lesson for me, of constantly be in curiosity as to, why is this happening? What can I learn from it? Even like when I stab a toe, or get a paper cut, I'm always in curiosity. What am I doing? How am I rushing? What do I need to pause? Yes. That's been really powerful and important.
Yeah. I love it when people get to that stage of being quite aware, is that they will often laugh at their body or laugh at themselves when they do get an injury, or they're happy because it's an opportunity to look within and see what can be changed in their life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our bodies are constantly communicating with us. It's just a matter of like, are we willing to slow down enough to actually pay attention?
Yeah, absolutely. So what about your family relationships? How are they?
They're a work in progress. I think that's a pretty good response on that.
And you're working on that at the moment with healers?
Yes, I'm working with myself, with healers, with them. So it's interesting how family dynamics are, because once we decide to change, it doesn't necessarily mean that our family members change at the same time. Most often they actually try to fight because they don't want to change.
Yes.
Subconsciously, they don't even know that change is possible.
Yeah.
And comfort is not so comfortable once you know the truth, but a lot of people get too comfortable in the comfort zone.
Yes, absolutely. What advice would you have to people out there when relationships start to change because they start to find themselves and express themselves differently?
I think coming back to your core values would be the top priority, because that's your foundation. Once you have your core values and you know why they are your core values, then nothing will come across it. So if somebody doesn't align with your core values and you're really grounded in them and you know why you believe in them, then there's no such thing as somebody crossing them off.
Yeah. I love everything that you're saying because I always bring people back to their values. It's such a simple and challenging exercise, but once you get clear on them, it can really help govern all of your decisions and make life so much easier about what you say yes to, what you say no to, who you let into your life and who you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. And it builds self-trust.
Yeah. So what changes have you made in your day-to-day life?
My self-care and really sitting down with myself has become a non-negotiable. So I've meditated and done yoga and done journaling and all of that stuff before the accident and before the surgery. However, it wasn't consistent enough. I just knew them as something that's good to do. And since the surgery and since my cancer experience, it became such a non-negotiable that now every single morning and every single night, I make sure I just sit with myself. I meditate and I connect to myself, and I connect to whether or not I'm living the life that I want to be living.
Yes. How long do you meditate for and how much yoga do you do? I'm sure people want to know.
As far as meditation, it varies. I do minimum of 20 minutes, at least once a day. Ideally, I would go up to an hour. It depends on like what's happening in my day. I also see as meditation not necessarily just sitting down and meditating. Sometimes I go for a walk, and that could be a form of meditation as well, or even journaling. If I put all of my thoughts on paper, that could be a form of meditation as well. So it can, generally, I do about an hour, minimum of an hour in the morning, and maybe half an hour in the evening of self-reflection and meditation. And as far as yoga, it varies as well. I go between like 10 minutes a day, minimally, to an hour.
Do you just do it on your own?
Yeah, I do my own practice. I also have different classes that different teachers shared with me.
Yeah.
So I think that it's not really about a specific formula of this is what you should be doing. It's really about listening to your body and listening to your intuition and asking your body, what does she want? So in the morning when I wake up, I ask my body, what do you feel like doing?
Yes.
So it doesn't feel rigid and it doesn't feel like I have to.
What other things does your body tell you it likes to do?
Stretching, foam rolling, definitely like moving my body. Journaling has become a really non-negotiable practice, daily practice as well. I've got a lot of insight from daily journaling, asking questions and then answering them. That's really powerful. Spending time in nature, hiking, really anything that allows me to be outside of my day-to-day and somewhere else.
Yes.
And nature is like a really powerful healer in general.
What are your other self-care practices?
I love bubble baths. So at night, I like to do bubble baths of sea salt, like Epsom salts, candles. I love reading. Reading is a big part of just reconnecting to other teachers and other mentors and people who have done the research and are living the life that I aspire to be living.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Do you go and get any treatments?
Yes, I get regular treatments, just again, depending on what I feel like I should be getting or what my body feels like it needs extra attention with. Right now, I do regular acupuncture. That's been like my go-to. Massage just depends on, again, what's happening, and with COVID and social isolation has been a bit challenging. Mm-hmm. But massage has really been supportive. I've been getting a lot of insight and ideas and clarity after getting massage. So I'm not only seeing it as a self-care, I'm also seeing it as like a business strategy process.
Yeah, because when you stop, that's when all the ideas can start.
Yeah, it's like taking a shower,
Yeah.
All the ideas come in.
Where do you feel your brain is at compared to your pre-cancer experience and post? Have you had any dysfunction?
I wouldn't say I've had dysfunctions. I feel like it's even more clear and strong, if that's even like a thing. Especially after the surgery, I felt like everything just made sense.
Wow.
And I even joked around saying that they took out whatever was not necessary and only the needed things remained. So then everything just rearranged itself the way that it's supposed to be. It's really all about the way that I'm seeing it. It's about perception. Like, what do you choose to believe? And believe that. Believe what feels good. If it doesn't feel good, don't believe it.
Yes.
That's how powerful we are as human beings, I think.
Yes. So do you feel like your life is in flow at the moment?
Absolutely. Probably the most in flow that it ever has.
Mm-hmm. What would you tell people who are hearing a cancer diagnosis?
Connect to your body and ask it what it needs. And it may sound a little esoteric, like I get it. However, try it on for size. If you've never meditated, start 5 minutes. Like really just close your eyes, sit down, and connect to your breath. Start with a guided meditation. Like being in silence and meditating, as simple as it is, could be one of the most profound processes that you ever do. And it could be the greatest gift that you can give yourself. So try it out. Like if everybody's giving you a million different suggestions and ideas, try this one.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence that so many successful and healthy people are doing it every single day. It's a practice. It's not like you do one time and that's it. It's like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym one time and then you have a six-pack.
Yes, exactly. Good advice there. So you had those 2 car accidents and you'd fallen on your face and then you had been given this diagnosis. Have you been having any other mishaps since?
No, thank God. And also it's a good reflection that I'm doing something right.
Yeah, awesome. Now, you talked about Lionsgate and I've heard about it, but I don't know much about it. Can you enlighten me about Lionsgate?
So Lionsgate is considered one of the most powerful and potent days of the year. And it happens every single year on 8/8. And 8 represents, if you turn it sideways, it's also the sign of infinity. So somewhere like on or around 8/8 is a really potent time in the world. And this specific year, 2020, it's supposedly like even a new, like dynamic astrological new year. So I'm not like a specialist, obviously, around this, but whoever's interested in, if your listeners are interested to learn more, I highly recommend for just Googling and trying to find out what it is, because you can use astrology as a way to look at the numbers and see how they can support you in your business or in your life.
Oh, absolutely. So I use a Vedic astrologer myself, and I consulted him before I purchased a business to find out what was the best date to do this. And I also had, my husband had a reading, and our 3-year-old at the time had a reading as well. And I loved it because it talked about the sort of path or destiny. And sometimes as a parent, our kids will do things that we don't think is right, but actually it is right for their path. Mm-hmm. And so knowing that, I could encourage that even if it didn't feel right in what I knew.
Yeah, I love that. So yeah, and there's so many different ways. Like if somebody is looking to learn more about themselves and the best path for them, like astrology is a great process to go through. There's also human design, genes key. There's so many different ways in order for us to really find out who we are and then live that type of life, not try to fit into a box. I think a lot of illnesses and diseases actually show up because we're trying to be somebody else, or we're trying to live up to somebody else's idea of success.
Yeah, absolutely. We just have to come home to ourselves and just express who we truly are. Know that some people won't accept us, but the ones who can really relate to us get inspired, and we can help them so much more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, what is your hope for your future life? You're still working on that, but what is it at the moment?
My number one goal at this point is to understand, know, and accept myself fully. Because I believe in order for me to be of service of any kind to anybody, it starts off with me doing that for myself and knowing myself. And if I show up 100% authentically myself, no matter what I do is going to be a success.
Yeah. Have you had any moments of doubt when you've wanted to put yourself out there fully?
Of course.
Yep. Good.
Doubt goes hand in hand for entrepreneurship.
Yeah. I don't mean good that you've experienced that, but I think it's just important for people to recognize that we all go through it. We all have that self-doubt, and you just got to push through it in different ways.
Yeah, and also it's a natural thing as being human. You don't even need to be an entrepreneur. You can be a human and have doubt.
Yes.
And what's interesting is that we're coming full circle with trust.
Yeah.
Like trust and doubt cannot exist in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
So trust is synonymous also with faith.
Yes.
So that's where you want to come back to. And that's also directly related to your core values. Yeah. What are your core values? Do you trust that your life could be what you imagine it to be? And what action steps will support you? Any doubt is just your little voice, your ego, who's trying to protect you. Really, that's what doubt is. And that's what ego is. Ego is just an aspect of you that's trying to protect you. It loves you so much that it wants to protect you. So it gives you a million different reasons why you shouldn't be doing it. Because you're going to grow, you're going to expand, you're going to be different. And your ego doesn't want you to be different, because different means that you're bad, because it doesn't feel safe enough. That's really what it all comes back to.
Yes. Gosh, your photography clients are really lucky. Do you share this with them?
I do. And I feel like a lot of the work that I've been doing is really, even before all of this happened to me, not even to me, for me.
Mm-hmm.
The way to shift into our highest being and our most authentic being is to express ourselves and to show up. So my initial passion wasn't even photography. It was showing people what they're capable of being and reflecting back the magic and the light that they are. And photography is the vehicle that I've been doing it with. So I feel like personal development and photography and healing, they all go hand in hand.
Yes. Are you a goal setter or intention setter, manifester? Do you do any practices around that?
I like to visualize what I want to create, and I also like to write as if it already happened.
Yes. Cool.
So I don't have like specific goals like $10,000 by the end of this week. I don't really do that kind of approach. I have in the past. It just doesn't work for me. Again, it comes back to knowing myself. It doesn't work for me personally. It has worked for a lot of other people. For me personally, that doesn't work. So what does work for me is really tuning in as to how do I want to feel and what action steps will support for me to feel that way.
Yes.
And then I write out everything that I'm visualizing and envisioning to have.
Yes.
That could be tangible and intangible.
Yes. Great. And have you had a few speaking gigs?
I have, yeah.
Cool. What sort of people have you shared to?
I've shared on stages, some like in women's, what are they called? Like live events when we still had them.
Yeah.
So I've spoken on stages and doing live events, mostly like for women coaches, for entrepreneurs. And I've done a lot of podcast interviews and been sharing my story since the whole healing process has begun.
Yeah, great. So you've got so much amazingness to share. Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
I think I covered it all. You know, the main thing that I want to really share with the listeners is to come back to themselves and to trust in their own truth. It doesn't matter what other people say. It doesn't matter even what the doctors say. Like based on my personal experience, the doctors told me that I will have to go through months and months of chemotherapy and radiation. And my friends were telling me that I will have to file bankruptcy. And there were like all of these different things that other people were telling me that I should be doing or is better for me. And I kept on being really grounded in the fact that, no, this is an experience and I will use this to actually propel my life forward.
Yes.
And in the end, it turned out that I no longer had cancer and I'm now debt free. And also another blessing that came out from that entire experience is I reunited with my ex-husband and we're now like living together after not being together for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, so there's so many different blessings that came out and keep on coming out from that experience.
Can you talk a bit about the relationship with your husband?
Yeah. So when I first was getting ready for chemo and radiation, I needed extra support. And after the divorce, we divorced 7 years ago, and we've been friends since then. And when he heard that I was hospitalized and I'm getting ready for chemo and radiation, he was in Europe at the time for work. And he flew from Germany to take care of me. And he stayed with me for about a month. And even afterwards, when everything was cleared, he was helping around the house because my arm was still not mobile. And then he came back. We spent the holidays together. And literally a few weeks later, he wrote me this amazing love letter that was 3 pages, like front and back, all about how he has uncovered that he still had feelings for me and that spending so much time together, he has realized that he never fell out of love with me and we're so perfect together. And it's just the most beautiful letter, basically. So that was like the cherry on top of this entire experience. So maybe, getting brain cancer could be you finding the love of your life. So don't get so upset.
And they were right in front of you all the time.
Right, exactly. And I kept on throughout the entire time that we were apart. I always was saying, never in a million years will I ever be with him again. Mm-hmm. And that entire experience shifted things because all of a sudden I started looking at him through the eyes of, I've changed a lot. He has changed a lot. So I let go and release the version of him that he was 7 years ago. And I actually opened my eyes and was clearly seeing the person that is standing in front of me in that moment, which was a perfect match to the partner that I was visualizing to be with.
Amazing. I'm curious, did you remarry?
No.
Just decided not to?
I mean, it's only been, we've been together for 6 months now.
Okay.
And we just moved in together.
Great. Wow. Any other stories? You're full of them. I thought I was going to wrap it up there, but
Right. I think that's it. Yeah, the main thing is just take time for yourself, and no matter what kind of thing or diagnosis or prognosis life gives you, hands you. That. Yeah. Trust that it's for your greatest good, and you never know how that present will be the greatest blessing of your life.
Yes. That's a good place to finish.
Mm-hmm.
However, how can people find you if they want to connect with you and follow your story and everything that's going to come out of this?
Yeah. I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. It's my name, Ania Volovique. And Instagram is Ania_Volovique. And my website is just my last name, volovique.com.
Okay. We're definitely going to have to put that in the podcast notes for people.
Yeah.
And you're working with clients in the States for photography work. But if anyone wants to reach out to you to have you speak and share your story and inspire other people, are you open to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also love travel. So I'm also happy to travel outside of US as well.
Well, when our borders open up, I'm sure.
Right, exactly.
We'd love you over here to share more of your story. It's very inspirational.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in to today's Pain Story interview on the Art of Listening to Your Body podcast. Anything shared during this episode is for information only. It does not replace professional advice from a healthcare practitioner. If you are experiencing pain, injury, or illness, seek advice that is catered to your individual needs. Thanks for learning with me on the Art of Listening to Your Body podcast. If you like what you've heard, I would love if you could rate, review, and share with your friends. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. My handle is The Art of Listening to Your Body. You can join my free Facebook group where I go live regularly to teach you about different conditions and the deeper underlying emotions at play.